Yo, what's going on, guys, and welcome back. Today we are continuing our Python journey. This is week 5, I believe, so I may be wrong on that, but I'll make sure it's right in the description. But welcome back, guys. Today we created a password cracker, so hopefully you guys like this content. If you do, hit that like button, hit that sub button. We're almost to 5K. The Python has been doing a lot better than I thought. I actually didn't expect it to do that well because notoriously I'm not a programming channel, and there's a lot out there. So, but I'm orienting them all to hacking. So that's why I think it's doing well, and let's get into it. So first things first with this one, there's a lot of functionality that can be added to this one. So with that, if you remember from the previous videos, we are building a tool. This will be part of that tool. The reason I didn't keep adding it to the tool like I did in the previous videos is because I want to fix the old tool before I start adding these modules, because I don't want it to get huge amounts of code that I then have to go back and fix. I want to just create them as modules and then I'll add them in. I think it's a little bit easier that way. So you can see here, this is a relatively short one, but I will tell you this one caused me the most headache. This actually took the longest out of all of them, including the whole tool. And the reason for that is because getting the formatting right was very difficult. And I'll show you guys what I mean by that. So I did use a guide initially to kind of get the basics of what I wanted to do. And then I completely revamped the code totally. So I'll show you guys. Let's see if I can find the guide here. So here's the guide. Okay, and I'm going to put it in the description. But you can see his is a little bit different. He's got a lot more variables than I do, and stuff like that. But I do want to be transparent and let you guys know that I did use a guide initially. So I will put that in the description below, and you guys can check it out. But let's hop into it. First things, we had to import the hash library, and that's because you have to hash the passwords, right? So that's obvious. I did add argparser, the argument parser, if you remember from the previous videos. And the reason I did this is because I want you to be able to use syntax to, just like Hydra or anything else that you're familiar with. I want you guys to be able to use that as the password cracker, rather than the way they had it is actually in the code itself. You had to go in and edit and put the new password and the hash in there. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do it that way. So you can see I added argument parser. One thing you'll notice in this one is all of the, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. Maybe. Anyway, finally, all of the variables are declared down here, except for this one up here. And the reason for that was, long story short, I made this code and I made it how I wanted it. And then I put it into Chat GPT to clean it, to basically make it look nice, right? To get it all in the way it's supposed to. And the reason this one's up here is because when I was troubleshooting, I was going back and forth like a million times because it kept saying that this was not declared. So I put it above everything to make sure it gets declared first, and it worked. So I just left it as is. So just bear with me on that. Now, let's go ahead and break it down. So we have parser, again, same thing as before. We have the program. The program is password cracker. The description is this is a password cracker that uses a word list. We'll add brute force option later. So that's important because I want you guys to know this can be a lot of functionality can be added. I am going to add a brute force into it later, possibly. The reason I say possibly is because there's not really a need for a password cracker, brute force password cracker out there. It doesn't really help me to do a Python one when there's some that use GPUs and stuff like that already. So the brute force would be very slow, and things like that. So it's not really a huge functionality that I'm worried about adding, but it is something that we can add later. So I just want you guys to know that. And then epilogue, make sure to check out Stuffy24 on YouTube. We have that on all of our tools. All right, so now parser.add argument. So remember, this is when you're doing the argument parser. This is now when we do tac W, we're going to specify the word list. That's going to tell us, hey, we want to go ahead and specify this word list, and this is the word list we want to use. So whether you want to use the rocku.text or whatever, this is how you do it. Now, I have it set up, and you can see here, if you look, if I can find it. Actually, no, it is not in this version of it. So I have like 50 versions of this because I messed with it so much. And so you can see with the word list, I will tell you, if the format of the word list is incorrect, it doesn't always work. And this is my version that actually does work quite a bit. And that's because you can see I stripped everything. You can see line.strip. You can see stripped guest pass. I stripped everything. What I mean by that is I took the word list and got rid of, if you accidentally put a space in there, if you accidentally put something in there, it strips all that out and just uses the words. You have to do that. I wasn't doing that before. And for whatever reason, whether there was a space at the end of the word or at the end of the hash or the word or whatever, it just kept messing up. So I just like, okay, this isn't functional. I need to mess with this. So that's why it took so long, because getting that formatting right. So the TAC W is where we're going to put the word list. So when we say run customized, you'll see the TAC W is test.txt. So we'll go ahead and open that test.txt to show you guys. And we will go ahead and say Python. And you can see right there, it is test.txt. When we open it, it's just got 3 passwords, Henry, password. And the reason is the guide uses this Henry password. I wanted to change it and put this password. That's the one we're going to do. So the original guide, if you guys follow it, actually has the password Henry in the text or in the code. I'm not doing that. I wanted you to be able to read it from and they have you reach out to a URL. I'm not doing any of that. I want you to locally have a word list and run it. And you can see here, if we hit OK here, it says, hey, your password is password. Please change it. And then after 5 seconds, we'll go ahead and hit kill. Okay, so that's why you can see here, I also imported time. You don't have to import time. It's all I did was I added here time sleep 5. I added that so that way if you run this on a command line or something like that, it doesn't just go your password and close real fast. It gives you time to read it. So that's the only reason I added it. You don't have to, but yeah. So then you can see we have to add the args parser. Args, you just have to. And then the word list is args.wordlist. So the argument word list is what word list is being changed to. So now there's 3 actual functions in this. We have read word list, we have hash, and we have brute force. The read word list, all it does is opens the word list, okay? And remember, this word list is now the argument we gave it. So it is now test.txt because that's what we're giving it when we run this customize. You can see test.txt right here. That's the command we're giving it, or the argument we're giving it. So it's going to R for read. So it's going to read, and then it's going to read it as a word list file. Okay, so it's just telling it, it's basically making sure that it knows that it's a file and not directly as, because this was another issue I had, is I was opening it and somewhere in the translation it would work, but then sometimes it wouldn't, and it was because it was basically reading it as strings versus reading it as a file. So I had to make it as word list underscore file so it knows it's a file. Now, you can see then we take it and we say, okay, words, we need to strip it for for each line in the word list file. So for each line in the file, right, Henry, password, it needs to strip everything out of there. It needs to get rid of all the freaking spaces and stuff like that. So now we have words. Words is now these are our passwords, right? These are what we're going to do. So, and then if it can't read it for some reason, you get an exception. It's going to say there's an error, right? Now, the hashing, this is pretty self-explanatory. It's going to take that word list file, the passwords, and it's going to hash it using SHA-1. Now, you can, with Python, the nice thing is I can just change this to whatever my hashes are. I could theoretically put it in here, say, tell me your, algorithm, MD5, SHA, whatever, 256, whatever, and I could have it set here as a variable. I'm not that worried about that because it's a simple change here. I thought about putting a little comment in here too. Hey, change this if you want. But if you know code, you can probably figure this out. So you just change this to whatever algorithm you're using, and then it's going to say word list password dot encode. So it's going to take the word list password that I had. It's going to encode it. So now we have the hash. We have the hash of the word list that we just put in. And then we go to brute force. So now we're going to say, okay, for the words, which is, if you remember, that's all of our passwords, okay? And then our actual password hash. So you remember we took the word list and we hashed it. So we're going to say guess the password in words. So we're going to say take the stripped guess password. Okay, remember we had to strip the spaces, and we're going to, there it is, guess the password dot strip. Okay, now if you see this hash in front, that's going to take that hash. It's going to say take the guess password and hash it, and does it match the actual password hash? If it matches the actual password hash, which is the one that we're giving it, then, hey, we found your word, right? So we're giving it a hash. Then it's hashing the words that we have in the word list, and it's going to compare them. It's going to say, this matches this. That must be your password, okay? So that's what it's doing. And then if it finds it, hey, your password is, boom, striped guess password. Or stripped, excuse me, I said striped. Stripped guess password. So now it's going to give us the password. Now, it's just changing those variables. This is what I mean when I say it cleaned my code. I don't even remember what half my variables words were because I had them. So, because I had like password list, almost password list, ready password list. Like I just had, because as I'm typing, I don't really care. I'm just like, okay, use this variable, and I just keep using it. This actually changes them to things that make sense. That's why I use ChatGPT to clean it, because it just takes it and goes, okay, stripped password guess. That way you have a clean variable. Now you can see I put the time.sleep. You don't have to do that. I just did it because every time I'd click it, it would end the program instantly. I didn't like that. And then you can see here we declared the variables words equals read word list. And you can see what that means is words equals this right here. Okay. Which we already knew because it says return words. So that's what it's going to do. It's going to open it and it's going to give us those. Now, obtain the actual password hash from the command line arguments. Actual password hash equals args.password hash. It's the same as up here, the word list, args.word list. So then you say brute forcing is the words. So it's the words and the actual password hash. So brute forcing just uses those two and boom. So what it's saying is this is where you're actually running the program. Okay. And then if for some reason it can't guess the password, it's not in the list. Hey, I couldn't guess this password. It was not in my word list. Now, just to show proof of concept here, I'm going to pull this up. This is CyberChef. Okay. CyberChef, I put password here. And let's change it to password 123. Okay. So now you notice the hash is completely different. So we'll copy that hash. Okay. Now if we run this with the old hash, you can see, okay, of course it found it that time because I didn't think about it, but it's the same. We didn't change the text, right? So if we change it and we say new hash, now keep in mind the new hash is password 123. That's not in our word list. So hey, I couldn't guess this password. It was not in my word list. So perfect. So now if we go to test and we say password 123, and I think it was capital, and we save that, we exit. Now if we run it, it should find it because it's in our word list now. Hey, your password is password 123. So that's how it works. That's how a password generator or a password cracker works. This is just one that we created ourselves. It's just reading a file, going through the words, hashing it, and giving us back the results if it matches. So keep that in mind. It's not true brute force, but if most of you guys have worked with Kali or any of those Linux, most of them come with word lists. You can use those word lists to do this as well because all you have to do is change the argument. So what I mean by that is now when you specify TACW word list, you just say, I want the rocku.text or the, whatever text, and boom, now you have a word list that's going to generate all those passwords. So just make sure you pay attention to what algorithm you're using because this is using SHA-1. If your hash is in a different format, you need to change it. We can add that functionality later, like Hashcat and things like that, where it has multiple different things that we can use, and we can just change this automatically. That might be something we add later, but eventually I'm going to add this into our network scanning tool so that we can take it a step further. So hopefully you guys like the video. Hopefully you guys like the Python stuff. It's really fun to mess with because I don't know how you guys get, but I get in a zone where I have an idea in my head. I want to create it, and Python, well, all programming, Python's pretty easy, but programming in general is troubleshooting. It's difficult. So I get in this mode where I'm going and I'm getting a little frustrated, but I'm also enjoying it. And I won't stop till I get this complete. So I'm happy with where it's at. I want to mess with it more, but I'm happy with where it's at. We will get it put into the other tool, and we're going to keep rolling with this train, and hopefully you guys can have some fun and learn some hacking tools on the back end as well. So hopefully you guys have a great day, and thank you guys for the support.